The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 100. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of courageous women finding their inner journey to self-confidence 5 days a week. Want to learn how you can change your inner beliefs and attitudes? Download a free copy of the ebook by visiting thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Well, hello friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have a special lady on today. She is a spiritual and business mentor to entrepreneurs, and she's here today to share her story on self-confidence. So I'm pretty excited to have her on. And, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Asha Ramakrishna.
Hi.
Hi, Asha. How are you doing? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Oh, sure. So I'm trained as a molecular biologist, and I spent over a decade in business development and sales in the biotech industry. And simultaneous to that, I was just really curious on just spirituality in general and was merging it in my life. And then it just kind of hit me that, oh my gosh, it's time for me to really bring those two worlds together. Because to me, they weren't separate. Like, who we are spiritually is not necessarily different than who we are in business, or at least that is a nice pursuit when we can align ourselves both spiritually and in the outside world. And they, like we're the same person on the inside and on the outside. So that's basically what I do. And typically, I really focus in on, I think we each have a specific dharma. Dharma is a Sanskrit word that means one's life purpose, one's truth. And we each have something very specific that we come here. And we have choice about what we choose to activate. And I think all of us have this unique thing. And what ends up happening is that we get so distracted with what's happening in life and what, people are asking of us. But when we can be really clear on what that is and have a very strategic and simple model of building a business around it, then we can have both like feeling fulfilled, feeling balanced, and, like I always say, profit is queen. So also being profitable.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And I like how you put, spirituality and business together because, I've seen a lot of successful people, and one thing that they're really big on is spirituality, whether it's they believe in God or they believe in a higher being. They all have that same characteristic, same commonalities. So thanks for sharing that. And what is your cultural background?
So I grew up in Venezuela, but I'm half Indian, and I went to a boarding school in Venezuela that was American, and I'm what they called what do they call it, like third culture kid, and then I came to the U.S., so now I live in the U.S.
Awesome. I've never even heard of that third culture term before, but
I think that's what it's called. It's something like that. It's like you, wherever you go, you're like, I don't quite fit here.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And, what would be your favorite self-confidence quote?
Oh my gosh. So this quote has been following me now. And I thought first it was like a client of mine said it. Then a second client of mine said it. And then a vendor, a woman who does some editing for me, sent me this framed quote in a frame. And I was like, okay, this is my quote. When you asked me that question, I was like, okay, it's, she believed she could, so she did.
I love it, right? Because it all starts with a belief, right? If you don't believe you can do anything, then it's your own limiting belief, right? But when you can believe that you can do it, you're going to do whatever it takes, right? You're going to do whatever it takes to get it done. So that's a great quote. And, in your own words, how would you define self-confidence?
I think it's what you said. I think it's believing it with every cell in your body. One of my favorite books is The Alchemist. I read The Alchemist probably 20 years ago. And one of the things that Paulo Coelho says in this book is that when you know what you want, the universe conspires to meet you with that desire. And it's that trust that this is going to happen, or something magnificent is going to arise because you're putting your energy into it.
I love it, and thanks for that great definition. And I believe that too. When you want something and you attract the right things, the universe will, like you said, conspire to have, everything come to you. And you just got to go out and get it sometimes, right? So.
And even if it doesn't look the way you thought, you first put it together. It's like when you build a plan for a house, but then the soil it's not quite right for that kind of house, and you have to pivot. Same goes with business, right? It's like you have to be willing to pivot and be willing to change and be flexible with what you're handed and make something incredible out of it, because our minds, we only use a fraction of our minds, right? So we cannot possibly comprehend the magnificence of what we're capable of, but life can, but the universe can, but our soul can. And so we're handed these opportunities, and we can either be so stubborn and say, nope, that's not the way I wanted it to look, so I'm not going to follow that. Or we can be open and flexible and say, you know what? Something about that makes me really curious. Something about that makes me want to pursue it. It's not exactly what I thought it was going to be, but let me just try it. You have to be willing to do that. At least you deserve to be willing to do that.
I totally agree with that, because you never know. What if that route that the universe is showing you could give you better results than what you intended, right? So
totally.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And, what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
I was a very quiet person. Beyond being quiet, I think that I hid a lot. I watch my kids now who are just so courageous. They try out for teams, they try out for plays. They're in plays. They are a main character in plays, and I think I would have never done that because I was just so afraid of being seen.
You know what? I think as, maybe, I don't know, in Asian culture it's the same thing. We're so afraid to be seen because we've been told to, not do anything. Just do what you're told and never make a scene, right? And that can really hurt somebody, right? Because then when we grow up, it's we're so afraid to try out these things, right? We're so afraid to have our voice out. We're so afraid to even post something on Facebook, right? Something as simple as that. But it happens, right? I've gone through it for sure. And, I'm sure, you've gone through some things as well. And what was that realization in your life when you said, you don't always have to be that way. You could be your own person. You can do what you want and have that voice.
And I would say that it's a journey. I think that finding our voice is a journey. Playing with our voice is a journey. Playing with the edges of our voice is also a journey. And testing it out, right? I think, I'm so glad you brought up the whole Facebook thing, because as I mentioned, I went to this boarding school that was, it was a religious boarding school, and there was very strong dogma there. And coming out of that, here I am, half Hindu, half Catholic, trying to figure out who am I, what my belief systems are. These people really judged me, and they really thought that I should be a certain way, have certain belief systems. And with Facebook, I found that I was playing those edges. I was okay, I'm going to start showing who I am, and maybe I'm going to also make choices about who I want in my community, virtual or not, and who I want and who I don't want. So all of that has been gradual, but, for a very, very specific moment, I think that when I viscerally had an experience, and I hear people who run marathons and ultra marathons also say these kinds of things, is that experience of achieving something shatters our own perception of what we think is possible. So every person has access to do something that they can't quite comprehend that is possible for them. And typically what happens is that we get a lot of support around it. We get the right kind of coaching. We get the right kind of tribe around it and a smart plan, right? So, but for me, that moment or that experience was actually, I gave birth to my daughter at home and I didn't feel pain. I mean, I tell people this and they're like, what? And, I have like no judgment of the kinds of birth that people have, but this was something that I had wanted and that I believed was possible. And because I believed it was possible, all these people and resources started coming towards me to help me, to prepare me to have this kind of experience. And then as I'm having the experience, sort of my mantra was really one of my favorite other books. I'm a big reader, so I'm going to share a few books. One of my favorite books is The Power of Now by Edgar Tolle. And if you haven't read that or your readers haven't read that, absolutely, go get it. Because it transformed the way that I experienced everything. And in that birth experience, sort of my mantra and my motto was to just be in that moment, in that second, that whatever it was that I was feeling, not thinking about what it was and how long I've been feeling this way, and not how long is this going to last, but just really being with it and sensing it, not about escaping it, but sensing everything about it without going into the place of suffering, right? And, the whole marathon thing is kind of the same way. It's like these people, they think, they are just in that step that they take, one after the other. And when this birth unfolded without pain, I thought, holy cow, I can't believe that I was that woman that just did that whole thing. And I recognized that this is what manifesting is about. This is what life is about. It's about us having a vision of something and believing and being curious that this thing is possible. And then life just starts bringing you these little nuggets to prepare you for it. And then you do it. You be with what the thing that you believed was possible. And, most of us, we do something we think it's amazing and we're like, wow, that's who I am. And that experience is what allows us to have confidence, is what allows us to say, okay, if I could do that, I can do anything.
I love it. And I'm sure all the women who's listening will probably want your secret on how to have a painless birth. So I'm just warning you in advance. But, what's your life like now after that realization?
Well, it is humbling to know that we have that kind of power. I think it's a beautiful kind of humbling. And it also allows me to ask myself very deliberately, what is it that I want? Right? We're at the cusp of the end of a year and beginning a new year. And not that the new year is more special than any other time of the year, but there's something really special about beginning, right? And the beginning is such a place of possibility. And that place of possibility is an invitation, at least for me, to go into what do I desire and what's the smart plan that I want to put together. And, balancing that out with not just okay, here's the business plan, let's go do this thing. I have my plan, I have my whole year laid out. It's about both having a vision and then being willing to pivot when opportunities come our way, just like we were talking about earlier.
Awesome. And I like that, right? Being open to possibilities, because, I believe so many people think that there's nothing out there that's possible for them, when really if they just really open their eyes and can just see what's out there, they can see that there's something out there for them. And sometimes it's just right in front of their faces, right? I've been guilty of it. I'm looking for something and it's just right there, right? The universe is just it's here, hello, So, I really love that. And, Asha, if the woman who's listening to your episode, she's inspired to start, living her life her way, her own terms, and she's in her own journey of self-confidence, what would be that one tip you would give to her?
Well, I love what you just said. Live her life her way. Is that what you said?
Yeah, living life on her own terms.
I love it. Her way. I like that you said that. Her way. I love that. I just love that because it's it doesn't have to be It doesn't have to be a blueprint. It doesn't have to be, following the steps that someone else has done. It's like your way. You get to do it your way. And I just go back to that foundation. I go back to be very intentional of what is your purpose and what you desire to be your purpose. Be curious about that. Be curious of what you're naturally good at and what moves you to want to do.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing those tips. Those were really great. And, Asha, if our listeners want to get to know a little bit more about what you do and, your services and just want to get to know you in general, is there any social media profiles or any links we can connect with?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I love Instagram. So Asha is Now is my handle on Instagram. And then on Facebook is my full name, Asha Ramakrishna, and CO. And I'm happy to share that link with you. But I do have a gift for your listeners. I have a link where this guide that helps you tune into what your purpose archetype is. And that link is ashaisnow.com/Dharma type. And that's DHARMATYPE. And I think that if they're connected to yes, I want to be really clear about what my purpose archetype is and begin that journey, or maybe if you already have a business, it doesn't matter. It's refining it even more of what is my purpose. I mean, I mentor a woman who has a $2 million business, and she's clearly in her dharma. She's clearly in her purpose. But going through this exercise and going through this process allowed her to deepen her connection to her soul and to also be a greater influence to the world beyond just, making a ton of money too.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing all those resources and that free gift. I'm sure our listeners will love it. And if you want to connect with Asha, you can also head on over to thetaoofselfconfidence.com and search for Asha's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else we talked about. And I just want to thank Asha for taking time to share her story with us. So thank you so much.
You are so welcome. And thank you for gifting me her way.
You are most welcome. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us on another episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. Visit thetaoofselfconfidence.com for links to everything we chatted about today, as well as killer resources, gifts, and so much more. Subscribe to The Tao of Self-Confidence on iTunes or Stitcher to hear more stories of amazing women finding their inner journey to self-confidence.